Okay, so the picture looks better. Let's see what it sounds like. Can you hear me okay?
Gotcha. I can hear you perfect.
Yeah, it's a much better line. It's weird how it works out like that, and so I'm glad we've solved that, and we're not going to spoil the video, hopefully. And so, as you are currently delving into the use of language and the manipulation via language, do you want to do say like an hour on that? How long have you got today, Peter?
I got a couple hours. I got to pick up
Okay,
my son
cool.
3:30, so I got a couple hours.
Yeah, so we could have a bash at looking at language because, as you know, I very often speak about it and the power it has over us, and how in actual fact it's an invisible prison, and like you say, indoctrinated from the very early years, and with the whole thing about the maritime law and all that sort of thing. Obviously, we can't go too deep about all this stuff. We have to assume that you know. My viewers know at least a little bit about this. And incidentally, did I send you the video links to our conversation last night so you can put them up on your channel?
No, I didn't get them, but if you could send me that one and this one, I'll definitely love to post both of them up because I
Yeah.
can't record from here where I'm at right now.
No, that's right. The recording facility is only available for the person that makes the call or sends the link, and also the other thing is in the comment section, if you want to put down your channel again. I noticed that a few of my viewers have come over, and it's still early days trying to build up. This is just how it is, but you'll get there because you're tenacious enough and you're articulate enough and you're expressive enough, and so it's just a matter of time. But due to the enormous amount of stuff out there, it does take time. And so yeah, so you was speaking in this latest video about the power of language, and how it's a tool to manipulate us. And when we look at the structure of language, then we read a whole lot more into it. And invariably, the words that we're using are not what we think they are. For instance, I use understand because I don't want anybody to understand me. And that's why I don't say it. Do you understand? Do you understand? I don't want that, because what that word means is, do you understand my authority? And this is the sort of thing that you'll hear in a court of law or a policeman. I'm cautioning you, or I'm arresting you. Do you understand? Like you say, no, I don't fucking understand. I don't understand you. Who are you to have power over me? What sort of a fucked up fucking system is this when we are born inside a fucking prison and we are supposed to understand everybody and everybody, all and fucking sundry, just because we've been born onto a prison planet? That's the crazy thing about it, isn't it? We're born onto a prison.
Yeah, I mean, and it all starts with the main system. If you look at see, I've been breaking the words down. I mean, see, understanding, authority, like even the word authority, author. You know what I mean? Like you want to be the author of your own script. You know what I mean? And when you look words up, like basically you can look them up on Google. You know what I mean? The reason I look a lot of words up on Google, even though I know what they mean, I look them up just to see what's available out there for people to just do some simple research on. And a lot of words start with the act of, the action of. You know what I mean? And I literally made a video just before this one that I haven't even posted, right before I came online with you, where I'm looking at the word deception. Okay, if you break words down, like de means to detach from something, right? To unattach from something. Ception has its own word, you know what I mean, has its own meaning, even though it's a suffix. But the word ception alone means, like they used an example, a car within a car within a car. You know what I mean? That's what ception means. So if you look at the word conception, conceive, a mother holds a baby. You know what I'm saying? So that's literally like I compare, because we're a big system. We have a nervous system, central nervous system. You know what I mean? You already know we're nothing but a big body of pipes, and it's all within a system. So now if a baby is inside a mother's womb, the baby is technically a new system within a system, and then when the baby is conceived, it is coming out into another system, which is the system of government, the system of education, the system of religion, which is all a belief system, which is another system in itself. You know what I mean? So it's about understanding how to manage those systems. Now, why do I mention this about language? Because the word conception, if you look at the word in front, con means to deceive, right? So who is to say that deception, we talk about people are like, the powers that be or the wannabe, and the reason they have the power is because we gave away the power through the deception. But the deception all started from the conception, because why would they use the word con, right, in front of the word ception? You know what I mean? Like, there's just certain questions that you can ask why words are arranged a certain way. Why did I get influenced to do this? And I literally just made a video on this. The teacher called me from school, from my son's school. My son is 6. Now, I try not to see what is really a bad word. You get what I'm saying? Like, what is a bad word? Like, why do we categorize a word as a bad word? Like the word fuck. You know what I mean?
Well, I think
just take the F out, and you could put the word duck. Luck. We say good luck every day. You know what I mean? Good luck. But if you really listen to words, unless we put a meaning behind them, they're just frequencies. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
it's
luck,
the intention
duck,
behind. Yeah, the intention and the energy behind a word, that's the meaning of the word ultimately, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the big thing, though. Let's say we always talk about we're in a big computer system, a big computer program, that we're in a matrix, a big graph, a big system, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we know that words aren't programmed also a certain way based on the belief system? Because it is a system within a system, just like we are a system within a system. How do we know that even though we have an intention behind the words are still not used against us? Because why is it that when cops pull us over, they say you have the right to remain silent? Because words can be used against you in a court of law, even though you have an intention behind them. They'll say, well, no, this is what the word actually means too. So how do we know that this is not what you actually meant? Or if it is a program, right, and we are in the program, then how do we know whatever words we use, even though there's an intention behind it, it's still not part of the program that we can't override unless we deprogram from that? Like, people talk about exit the matrix. You know what I mean? And we talk about, like, let's say people of frequency and vibration can only be in your existence if they're of frequency and vibration. You know what I mean? So how do we know that it's not really just exiting the matrix? Instead, it's unexisting from the matrix. You know what I mean? Just even adding a simple S letter there in the word exit, and just saying exist out of the matrix instead of exit out of the matrix. You know what I mean? Like, it's just playing around with words. They're just codes. They're just symbols. You can make the numbers and letters are just symbols. You know what I mean? You could create mantras. You could create sigils. You know what I mean? And all there is, we create spells based on the program that was instilled in the system. So how come I believe that it has to do with deprogramming from that original system and creating our own system, since we're all witches. You know what I mean? We just don't know how to use our own spells because we just don't do it. But we always want to look toward, how do you do this? How do you do that? Even the whole belief system behind, black magic. You know what I mean? Why is black magic bad? Why is the word fuck bad when luck is a good word? You know what I mean? It's just a belief system. It's just it's like a big trick. It's a big mind game. You know what I mean? It really takes a lot of digging deep into it.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things. One of the things is it's down to the intention that we have behind the word, because if you listen to people, then there's not really that many people that know what the words mean that they're actually using. And lots of people will use words in the wrong context. And how we know what they really mean is by their whole demeanor and delivery, isn't it? And we say, they must mean this, or they're using the wrong word there, this, that, and the other. And, when we look at the word like fuck, I don't think fuck is a bad word. I mean, to some people, it may be considered a profanity, but it's just a word, just like all other words. And it's an adjective. It's a doing word, isn't it? It's a descriptive word, and so this is the whole thing about it. And so we can use many words, and if we don't intend to spread any ill feeling, then we can use like fucking or fuck you asshole. We do, don't we? Fuck you asshole, it's a joke, we're not meaning anything. And so therefore in a certain region, it's not the words themselves, it's the energy that is behind the words. But if I'm getting you right, what you're sort of alluding to is that this language is a spell system to keep us spellbound, because it forces us into expressing ourselves using that particular sequence of spells. If there was another language that we could use, which was equally as descriptive, I'm pretty sure that we could escape from most of the prison that our minds are in. For instance, the reason why I think language is such a prison, because whenever we experience anything which is extra conscious, whenever we say like have an astral projection or a psychedelic experience or deep meditative experience, we can't find the language. Because whatever we experience, which is our true self and our true nature, we've not been taught to express ourselves in that way. And I think that's the prison. They've absolutely purposely done this. Otherwise, we could be able to express the DMT world, because we would have had a language from it. We would have been taught the spiritual language, but they haven't taught us that. In actual fact, they do everything in their power to scare us away from that, threaten us with throwing us in a fucking cage if we try to discover what's going on inside here, and indeed express it. My site with 15,500 subscribers was just took down overnight because I was expressing what I felt in here whilst I was on DMT. You see? And if that's not a prison, I don't know what the fuck is.
Not absolutely. But the thing is, we consent to all that shit, because here's the thing. Even based on my findings, we were talking about if we were to change the language, okay? I mentioned the word serpent, right? See, serpent, if you break the word serpent at the end of the word means wound up, coiled up, right? And that's what serpents are. Serpents coil themselves up. Kundalini energy coil in the bottom. Now, a lot of words come from from Latin. Now, if you look at the word sir is said, which means to be. So if you look at the word said, to be, wound up, pent up. You know what I mean? Even if we say serpent beings, we are part serpent, we would still utilizing that and saying to some extent that we are wound up or in a bind somehow. Now, and how do you unwind? Through breath. You know what I mean? But a lot of people aren't taught to breathe. This is one of the things that I feel should be a big lesson to people, is learning how to breathe. Now, another thing I want to cover is I heard what you said about intent, which is absolutely, I totally resonate with that. But if you do, and this is based on my findings, look at the word happy, right? Now, happiness has a meaning where they said it's a state of being, right? But if you look at an example that they'll use to describe this, they'll say, she found happiness through this, or she couldn't find happiness through this. You get what I'm saying? Like, they say found happiness.
Yeah.
Why is it that people say, they tell you don't worry, be happy? They'll tell you to be happy. But how do you find something to be? You have to find something to do. You know what I mean? So how do you find happiness if you can be happy? Because you're a human being, because you're being human. That's a being, a state of being. You know what I mean? So happiness is a state of being, yet they'll use the example on Google. She found happiness through this. I'm like, why would they use the word found if it's a state of being? You know what I'm saying? But yet people read that and catch it, and then with the ignorance or just unawareness, they consent to whatever they're reading. You get what I'm saying? Even though it's not an intention. Because why would police officers, and I'll ask you this, why would police officers tell you you have the right to remain silent, but you can even see the word right? Why would they use the word right when right has many meanings? Right could be a right turn. If you're, right, correct, they would say correct. But if you look at driving, for example, they say driving is a privilege, right, based on maritime laws, but traveling is a right. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be against you. But then when you're in the box and they want to interrogate you, they'll intimidate you for not talking. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like we use that same scare tactic that we're utilized with every single day, which is the fear system. You know what I mean? And this is where I believe that the whole knowledge and concept, because from knowledge you can really connect a lot of things. And then again, see, this to me, knowledge is the understanding. You know what I mean? It's not like you're under an authority, but this is just what I think. You know what I mean? I'm not challenging what you said before, but in understanding, it's kind of like a foundation. You still have a root system. You know what I mean? Like you have to establish a strong root system for you to even be able to have an establishment. Because even the word establishment is stabilized, establishment, and you still see the word meant at the end. Too many words and that word meant come from mente in Spanish, means mind, mindset, or momentum. You know, I did a lot of research on this, man, and it's crazy how everything just starts to connect dots to me. You know what I mean? And it all started just because I got that call also from my son's school, and it's just mind blowing, because you said the word fuck is really not a bad word, but they're making my son believe that it's a bad word because he got in trouble for it. Now, if he says the word fuck, I bet you he'll get sent home. You know what I mean? But we don't look at it as something that bad because we know. You know what I mean? So, what do you think of? I mean, what do you think of the police thing? I want to hear your point of view on that, because it's like, you know, they'll tell you have the right, which is a right that you have, kind of like traveling, but we use the word driving, which is a privilege, supposedly, you know, according to the maritime law. And when you say, if you just say I'm driving this way, you already incriminated yourself and literally subjected yourself to the maritime law. And look at the word even subject or subject, yet they're spelled the same way with no accent mark on top. But in Spanish, whenever they want to have a stress toward a certain word, they'll at least put a little line to stress that it's an accent. But you could be reading the word subject or subject. Unless you read the sentence, you won't know how to say that word properly, whether it's subject or subject. You get what I'm saying?
Yes. And so then that reiterates what I've been saying, that it's the intention which is inferred from the whole sentence, and it's not necessarily the word itself. And so we can use fuck in many ways whereby it will be perfectly acceptable. And, you know, because they are molding children into some sort of standardization of a consensual good citizenry, then when children use it, they are not using it. They don't have the experience to be able to use it as broadly as we do. And so when they use it, then the chances are they're using it wrong, because they're using it like fuck you, or, you know, or this sort of thing. They're not speaking about last night I fucked my girlfriend, or last night I fucked my wife and it was such a wonderful experience. You know, it's not like that, is it? And so therefore then you can see that there's certain parameters where language is appropriate and certain parameters where it's not. Getting back to the police thing, when they say you have the right to remain silent and anything you say may be used in a court of law against you, well, you do have the right to remain silent, but when they take you into the police station and ask you to give a statement, if you don't give one, then, like you've suggested, then that is held against you, because you are then deemed to be holding some information back, or you're being dishonest, or you're not speaking because you don't want to incriminate yourself. So all the law is always stacked up against you. Of course it is. And, you know, the old adage that you're innocent until proven guilty. Well, we know that is completely arse about face. We're all guilty until proven innocent. And it even states it in the Bible. We're guilty from day one with the original sin. And so this is the precept that they have created language upon, that we are all guilty. And so this is why we should all understand authority, because we don't have any, you see. And so they have emasculated the human being from the get-go, and they've created subservient drones. Now, the thing is about this is where I come to a bit of a kind of like a fork in the road, because, you know, I can look at it with both ways with equal energy. We can look at it from the facet that they're doing this and they're imprisoning us and they're manipulating us and all the things that they're doing to us. But if you start to look at it from the perspective that some of those things, or a good number of them, might be very, very beneficial to us, then we might look at it from a different light, you see. Because the human being generally is very, very ignorant, and they have a very large propensity to remain that way. And this has always been the case throughout history. It doesn't matter who you read, the greats will tell you the problem with the human being is they're a herd-like ignorant creature, and they're as happy like pigs in shit with doing fucking nothing in their own ignorance. And so what they have done, they have created structure. They have created laws and rules and regulations and social norms and all this sort of thing, because we, under our normal circumstances or of our own volition, wouldn't fucking do it, Peter. And so this is how I look at the human being. And then in this day and age now, people such as yourself and me who are trying to educate people, we're trying to give people a greater level of awareness about the world. How many of them will call you cunt, twat, prick, or any number of it if you say something which is contravening their paradigm? They want to remain ignorant. Why is it that Jesus was hung up on the cross? Because he was saying things that made people feel uneasy. And so look at everybody. Look at all the greats. Look at Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, or Gandhi, or any people that were advocating thinking for yourself, like Kennedy, and many other people. They all ended up, with a bullet or with something that caused their demise. And so, who was responsible for the stringing up of Jesus? Well, the people. The Jews themselves. He was supposed to be, conveying to them that they're all sons of God, but they considered him as a blasphemer. How can we be sons of gods? We're just mere mortal men, and this, that, and the other. And he was saying, truly, all the things I can do, you can do more, bigger, and better. And the human being doesn't want to accept its own power. And if you look deep into the psychology of this, you'll see why. Because when you start to empower yourself, when you start to realize what you really are, you enter into potentially a terrifying realm. When you look at the unconscious, when you look at the collective unconscious, when you delve into psychedelics and deep meditation and astral projection and lucid dreaming and all this sort of stuff, you realize that this fucking thing isn't anything like what they told you at school. For your own benefit, because if you knew what it really was, you wouldn't be able to fucking sleep a wink at night.
Well, all right. I want to go back to this whole when you get arrested thing, and the reason why is because I believe that this is where the whole the universal law that we know of, what I mean, we consent, and nobody could do anything to you without your consent. What I mean, that's our real universal law, right?
Yes.
Now I want to know if this is what you said before. Did you say that when you get arrested and the cop tells you that anything you say can and will be held against you, that whenever you go in there and you refuse to speak, is it because they're accusing you of concealing information or anything that, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
You see, look.
And let me I just want to make a point real quick. I just want to ask you, because see, I want to build on this because I want to get your point of view on it. The reason why I'm asking this is because the words they use is, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say that part with a stress is because if you say something, okay, you can get incriminated by using a word, right? A word such as I was driving. Instead, if you're not sovereign or intelligent enough to say the word traveling, you already incriminated yourself, even though your intention was toward traveling, but you said the word driving. Now,
let me just get this in. Let me just get this into context. Are you referring to driving? For instance, if you get stopped by a policeman and you don't have a driver's license.
Well, this is just in general. I'm just using that example because it could be anything. You know what I mean? Like, you see how you have words that one word has like so many meanings. You know what I mean? And we have a very limited language, all right? But they put so many meanings to one word, like light, right? You and I could be debating right now about the word light. You could tell me, Peter, light means light bulb, like a light, you know what I mean? And I tell you, no, it means lightweight, you know what I mean? But they're spelled exactly the same. And they both mean what they mean. If I tell you it means weight and you tell me it means light, we're both technically correct. But it's just whatever they decide to want to use that word light, like we're both debating on it, right? There has to be an observer, which if we're in court, who's the observer? The judge, right? Now the judge has to make a decision on where they're gonna put, you know, the where she's gonna, or he or she is gonna put the decision on, right?
Yeah.
But we're both technically correct, right? So this is what I'm saying. So if we use a word, right, that has many meanings, but they want to use that word and incriminate us in a way where it's, because first of all, jails, you know, the system makes money off people in jail. The system makes money off you know, paying tickets, paying all this, you know, a bunch of, it's literally charging us every time. Look at the word charge, you know what I mean? And we put our system of energy into the system outside of us to work for money, which is the physical manifestation of energy, instead of us being like, you know how you talked about before, you were chasing people, then you got to a point where you wanted to attract people to your channel. It's the same thing, but we're doing everything in a way where it's inverted. Instead of us going out to chase money, which is why we never get money, you should have energies of money work for you. But you see, even having a job is not a bad thing if you utilize it as an establishment, something to stabilize yourself or develop a root system. This is why I wanted to talk about that part about when you get arrested, what certain words may mean, or if we're in a system, regardless of what word we use, with whatever intention we have, the program, because of the belief system, will just say this is what that word means and this is what it is. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say. And I also want to make a point on the herd like mentality, but I'll let you talk, so I don't want to make it too long-winded on my end.
Okay, so what was the question, more concisely?
So the question basically is, when I spoke about if you get arrested and they say you have the right to remain silent because anything you say can and will be held against you. Because we're looking at it in two different points of view. You're saying that it's that when you do if you exercise the right to remain silent, is that you're withholding information. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But what do you need to give them they're public servants at the end of the day.
Okay.
Unless there's proof, they can't convict you for anything.
Well, okay.
Now, if you remain silent,
let's get down.
Incriminate yourself.
Yeah, let's get down into nitty-gritty then. When you are arrested, the thing that's being arrested is the business. It isn't the person. It isn't the autonomous human being. It's the persona. It's the person. It's the business or the persona representing the human being. And this is why they want to see your driver's license. They want to see your passport. They want to see your birth certificate because all of those documents, your name isn't written in English language. It's written in what's called legalese. Legalese is capital letters. Capital letters isn't, and it does not pertain to the English language. You can see that the only time a capital letter pertains to the English language is if it's used at the beginning of a sentence. All capital letters, it is absolutely outside of the English language. So what they do is then they arrest you, and they don't tell you this, and they start speaking to you legalese. Now, what they are saying to you is comes from the legalese scripture, the legalese writing that's been around since, since they started issuing birth certificates and passports and driver's licenses and all these sort of things, since they started to make a business of the human being. And so what they say is you have the right to remain silent, but if you do, then you are going to be deemed to be guilty. Unless, of course, you hire a lawyer and the lawyer speaks on your behalf, and the lawyer speaks on the behalf of your legalese title. The lawyer is...
Your corporation.
Yeah, your corporation. That's right. And so this is the whole thing about it, you see. We as sovereign human beings, we are caught in a situation which we don't understand because we weren't told that we are a business. If we were told that every single one of us is a business and we have a business name, and if we want to have privileges within this world business, then we have to use our business name, then we could say, oh, well, okay, if we were given that option, say like at 16 years old, if we were educated to be able to understand it, then we could say, oh, fuck me. I don't think I want that option. I want to be a free person. So please tell me where I can go and be free. And if they said, well, we've got a continent, it's called Australia, and that's where free people go. And there's no law there, every man to himself, and that's where you go. I go, okay, I'll take my chances there. If you are not much of an adventurous person, then you'll go, so if I operate under my business name, I can have some sort of healthcare, some sort of protection from the police. I can have my refuse collected, and I can have streets and roads built, and I can buy a car and drive it on your roads. Because if I don't comply to my legalese name, if I don't comply to that illusory fucking fictitious person, then I can't drive on your roads, you see. So they make it really, really difficult. But you see, not only do they make it difficult, but they do not give us an option to step outside of the matrix. There is no continent where free people can go, you see. So getting back to the question then, this is why we need a lawyer. The lawyer represents our corporation, and the lawyer defends us as a corporation against the state corporation. And so the human being is the piggy in the middle. The human being is the flesh and bones that gets thrown in jail because of the non-realization that he's made a contravention in the corporate world, because he is, in actual fact, as far as the matrix is concerned, a business.
Right. So here's the thing. So in other words, if the flesh and bones is the one that's getting locked in, it's a system, right? In a system now you're within the, what do you call it? Jail system now. You know what I mean? It's just another form of conception now. You know what I mean? But here's where the point that I wanted to make also. They also, look, there's a saying: if you take a child, all right, the religious system will tell you, let me have your child from the age of the time they're born till 7 years old, and I'll show you who the man is. Or I forgot who said.
Yeah, give me the boy up until 7 years old, and I'll show you the man. This is what the Jesuits have always stated.
Right. That's what it is. Okay, so this is why. When you mentioned that we're the human being is a herd-like creature, okay? Do you consider yourself a herd-like creature?
No, never have been.
Okay, me either. But I'm also somebody who likes to come out and do my own thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. But here's the thing, though. At one point, I was at that stage. You know what I mean? Until I matured and woke up. You know what I mean? Until there's something happened. You know what I mean? And it was a happening, but to me, it's a happiness to some extent. But the same way, when you could train, you see, I don't believe that we're even taught anything. We're trained. That's what I believe, that when we go to school, we're being trained. That's the indoctrination. You know what I mean? Because you could train a dog to be vicious, or you could train a dog to be a good dog. You know what I mean? It just goes by the owner. What the owner does to the dog is how the dog is programmed. Is it going to be a fighting dog? Is it going to be a house dog? Is it going to be, you know what I mean? It is what it is. Now, the children, according to the parents, is how the children grow up to be adults, depending on the household that they were in, right? Now, it's the same thing here. We are in a system that is training us to be a herd-like mentality and have that, because that's just the system that we're in. You know what I mean? Unless you mature and wake up, and you can either, stay in the system and die and fall and stay asleep your whole life in the system, or you could be one of those that just wake up. I mean, even when you look at the movie The Matrix, Neo woke up in the movie, but he was part of the system. He was part of the sheep-like mentality, but it starts with the religion. Look at what they use for Jesus, the good shepherd. You know what I mean? The whole religious system is just all based on following something. You know what I mean? We're always taught to look outside of ourselves. for food. We take nutrition through food, through this. Now, here's the problem though. Aside from us being trained, what we are putting in our body, and I can tell you this from experience, is how it really affects the way people think. You know what I mean? Because even if you look at it from a simple standpoint, if you eat a cheeseburger and fries, don't you feel like this? Like you start yawning and you're tired. You get something called the itis. Now, the reason that happens is that your body see, there's a certain discipline to things. The same way like I spoke about in one of my videos, you know, with money. Money management is important, but many people don't know how to manage their money, which is why they have
let me interject here because when you say in some of your videos that you can tend to kind of like, you know, go down a particular branch and lose the trajectory, I want to bring you back because money is a massive subject on its own. Diet is a massive subject on its own.
No. I'm sorry to cut you off. The reason I mentioned that is because I just want to compare the physical manifestation of what we look for as energy here. Because, I mean, if you want to have a good life here in this 3D realm, isn't it based on that energy of money? But spiritually, we need our spiritual energy. But this is why I say we exchange this energy, right? And drain it to work for this physical manifestation of energy. That's the point I was getting. You know what I mean? And the nutrition part is when you fast, like when I fast, I literally have more energy than when I'm overeating. And it also affects my mentality. This is why I said I feel more tired. I feel sluggish when I eat foods that don't belong in my body. That's the point I was getting to. So I was trying to make the point, but I was trying to correlate all these things that we're affected by. And this is the reason why we stay in that sheep-like mentality, because our brain is fogged up with so much shit. Because when you don't notice when people say, oh, I can't think right now, my mind is full. It's the same thing. If your stomach is full, how could you really think straight when everything is really tied together? You know what I mean? All the organs play a certain frequency together, you know?
Well, I mean, I don't know, unless I'm an exceptional sort of person in a curious sort of way. I've tried many diets, Peter, and there hasn't been a single diet that has made me feel any different than I ever have. And it doesn't matter.
It's not diet, though. It's not diet that I'm talking about.
Well, okay then. What I'm gonna, if I look back at my life, I've always been a different variety of creature. I never ever was a herd-like creature. When I was at school, every single school I was at, I was the hardest kid in my school, and I had my entourage. I had my followers. You see, I've always been a leader. I was born a leader, and whenever I was going through whatever I was doing, I would eat absolutely anything that I wanted to. And it never made a difference to my weight mass. It never made a difference to my strength. I always had awesome power. And so there's never been any compromise on that. And so trying all these different diets because all the mucus is terrible for you, all cheese is terrible for you, all meat's terrible for you. You can read a million fucking books and you can watch a million videos. And one video will tell you about all the beauty of the vegan diet, and the next one will tell you stick with the vegan diet, you're increasing your propensity for death about 30 or 40%.
Absolutely.
Yes, and so there's so many things. So I don't believe in any of that. I don't believe in anything, Peter. Now, what I've come to know through all the study that I've done, and I've done 30,000 hours of study, that's in this past 6 years, let alone the 49 years I had on this planet around the world gathering up information. And what I've concluded is that it is all mind. And your mind is going to be dictating whether you live to be 100 or whether you live to be fucking 30. It's going to dictate whether you're going to be affluent or whether you're going to be poor. It's going to be dictating whether you draw people to you or repel them. Everything. It's all mind, because at the end of the day, when we look for it, and this is the conversations I have with Paul, we have to be very, very careful what we're doing here, because when we really become awoken people, and I would even say the next stage, enlightened, when you're enlightened, how I define enlightened is when you know that you are a spirit. You've not just woke up because, you know, any body can just wake up to discover that they're in a fucking prison one day. That's not a difficult thing to do. When you realize that you are an infinite, eternal being, your consciousness is all that exists. That's when you become enlightened. And when you have that level of knowledge, you look at this Matrix thing as just a fucking game. And I don't take it serious. I don't get stressed about it. I'm not interested in whether it all blows up in a nuclear war or anything, because simply it's just an illusion. It's a hologram. It's a dream. It seems very, very real. We can all get wrapped up in it, and they're doing this and they're doing that. But by the time you wake up or you become enlightened, you'll look at it and you'll sit under a tree forever like Buddha, because you'll know that it's just a play. And look at how everybody is taking the play so very, very seriously. It's ridiculous. It's preposterous.
Well, that I completely agree with you, 100%. But it's not about diet. And the reason why I say it's not about the diet is because, see, it all comes down to the way you breathe. When you breathe, oxygen oxidizes. You can literally cleanse out. You can eat whatever you want. You know what I mean? And yeah, it is mind. This is where the whole concept of prayer came in. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, this is why I say in the beginning stages, if people aren't ready to hear this type of information, I always believe that the main thing to do is first clean the vessel, because you see, we're at stages right now where we can eat whatever we want and we know how to manage those energies. But the whole concept of prayer, even, you program your food, you program whatever you're putting in, those are energies to serve you to some extent. You're able to know how to cleanse out the body, but not everybody knows that. You know what I mean? Everybody does consciously. I mean, they'll eat unconsciously. People eat while they're texting, you know what I mean? And not really even mindful of what they're putting in, not really knowing that. Why, like, again, I've always said, putting what you're listening to, you can heal with binaural beats. You can heal with color therapy. You can heal with aromatherapy, right? But there's also ways to use your senses where it'll still hurt you. You know what I mean? If you're watching pornography, right, that's going to hurt your brain. You know what I mean? If I give you rat poison right now, right, which is like full of fluoride, you're going to die.
Yeah, but hang on. How's watching pornography? How's watching pornography hurt you in any shape or form?
Well, it's just basically dopamine receptors. It's not that it's first of all, your eyes are your windows to your soul. You know what I mean? And whatever you're looking at, okay, that's first of all, look at the internet. Everything works really quickly now, right? You go from one picture to the next. It's messing up your dopamine receptors. Your dopamine receptors is your wanting to get up and do things. This is why people are so unmotivated. This is why people have a hard time learning, because it takes dopamine for you to even learn something to begin with. You know what I mean? It takes energy, and that's your mental energy. So comes from dopamine.
Okay. I mean, I want to go back to that, because when people say that masturbation's bad, or they don't say masturbation's bad, they say pornography's bad. Now, I'm going to be looking at this, and I was speaking frankly about it. I haven't had a physical relationship in this past 6 years, but I'm not celibate as far as self gratification goes, because it's a human need, and there's something about it. It increases the dopamines, and it's genetically programmed. To try to be abstinent for a week or a month or something like this. I've done that also, and I've never found any difference in it, Peter. And so I just can't get fucking, enveloped or captivated by any of this nonsense. If you ask me, is masturbation a bad thing? I'll say it's a fucking brilliant thing. It's good fun,
okay.
It's pleasurable, and it's never done anybody any harm. In spite of what the Catholic Church have ever said, masturbation is a healthy thing. It's just fucking sex, only you're doing it with yourself. Now, you see, our whole being, Peter, is designed to sex your lies, to reproduce. That's what we do. If you ask yourself the question, what is the purpose of the human being as far as the matrix or as far as evolution's concerned? It's to procreate. And so if procreation is bad, oh dear, something's gone wrong with evolution. It took billions of years to produce us to do something that's bad.
Yeah, but do you know that I base this on what I've studied also? what you're looking at, your body doesn't know the difference between a fake experience and a real experience, which is why you can trick your brain into like getting rich. This is why they say everything's in the mind. You start to, hear suggestions. But do you know that even looking at pornography, your body already thinks that it's ready to procreate? So you're tricking the mind into thinking it's going into procreation.
So where's the problem?
You know what I mean? Well, I mean, here's the thing though. If you're looking at porn, okay, it's already programming you that this is the way you're supposed to have sex. This is the way. And listen, I don't have a problem with that, but there's also a right way and a wrong way to do things. A mindless person, again, will watch pornography, jack off, when instead of directing that energy to the right place, you know what I mean? Because you do have to have a release. That's how you release blockages. So yeah, I agree. There's different perceptions to things. But a person who is not in the level to even understand that won't even get that. See, you can utilize the pornography if you want, as long as you're directing that energy in the right direction you want it to go. When you jack off and you're just jacking off to a picture, you know what I mean? What's happening is that where's that energy going? It's going somewhere. You know what I mean?
Okay. So look, let's have a look at what we're really saying then. When people say that internet porn is bad, well, in what context? I would have some sort of an allegiance with people if they said that, look, internet porn is so prolific these days, it's so readily available to young people, and they spend too much time doing it rather than being outside playing with the mates or doing something constructive. I would go, in that context, yes, I'm in agreement with you, because when the hormones start running riot in the body with teenagers, and they've got a freaking phone with all the beautiful women all over the world doing anything you could ever imagine or fantasize about, it's a bit of a trap, to be fair. And yes, your energy would be better spent looking for a freaking job, probably, or educating yourself. But this is just one of the ways in which the world's going. The internet is a beautiful and wonderful thing, but just like everything on this planet, there's always a sting in the tail. And so what we have to do, you see, we have to know thyself, and we have to manage our own energy. And if we get into a situation whereby, we've masturbated 20 times in a day and we don't have energy to go to work, then something needs to be addressing. Yeah, you need to.
But there's people like that. There's people like that. That's
well, they've got an opportunity to learn them. That's what I say. You see, what we mustn't do is we mustn't overprotect everybody and blame somebody for the freedoms that we've got. Blaming internet porn because you use it. Don't use it. You see?
Well, there's a right and wrong way to do things. You know what I mean? Like I said, there's a way to do it. If you're gonna look at porn mindlessly, and just like I said, utilize the energies at least. If you need something to stimulate you, right? Because you're building energy, you're building up the energy, and every time you masturbate, you're building up the energy. You're having kundalini every time you watch porn and get stimulated like that. But what are you using? Where are you directing that energy to? That's my point. Now let me ask you a question, Aaron. Do you watch sports?
Never have. The only sport I've ever watched when I was very, very young, under 20, was boxing.
All right. But do you see a problem with watching sports?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why is there a problem with watching sports?
Because, in my estimation, it validates the herd-like mentality. It takes the individual thinking away from one another. It takes the individuation away, and it creates the herd. And that's the thing I have against it. I don't have anything against it because it's a waste of time. We choose what we want to do as far as our leisure goes. But that thing is it's a mind control. It's to keep you preoccupied so you don't go doing stupid things like reading books or
it's a form of entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like, even porn will keep you preoccupied enough, and so something where it's kind of like going into a herd-like mentality the same way, because if you look at it, how many hours, I've known people who spend 2 hours watching pornography, you know what I mean, and they don't even realize how much time has passed by. You know what I mean? And if you look at sports, watching it, and you're still conscious that because you can lose, see, energy flows where attention goes. So if you're watching pornography, your attention is going there. This is what I'm talking about, utilizing your energies wisely. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, they're not at the level to understand like the stuff that we say. This is why I try to at least even accommodate to people who are like in a baby stage or maybe even such a sleep stage that they don't even want to hear this type of stuff. You know what I mean? But some people will say, oh, jerking off is good because it prevents prostate cancer. That's the level that they're on. You know what I mean? And to some extent, yeah, there may be truth to that, but it goes a lot deeper than that. Now, notice stadiums, right? You go watch sports, stadiums around, right? Stadiums around. And the reason why is because when you're watching sports, you're rooting for a team. You're like putting so much energy into it. That energy goes somewhere. It's the same concept of what I'm telling you when you watch porn. Porn, if you look at statistics, it takes over 70% of the internet, right? So what does that tell you? Who's actually winning there? The porn industry, which is why there's so much money in the porn industry. But the money is the physical energy, which we put our spiritual energy to work for. But
but
I'm gonna finish here. Now, when you root for a team, people actually start putting bets too. And when they bet, that's money that they work for. So it's not only are you taking out all that energy, they're eating garbage, which is robbing their body of energy mindlessly, because again, everything goes by the intent that you do behind things. But if you're doing it unconsciously, things are going to just go automatically to whatever it's programmed to be, and that's it. But when you're rooting for a team, all that energy comes out. The stadium is round. That's how energy flows. This is why when you're, in a house, everything's square. Energy gets contained there. But I look at when you masturbate and you do it unconsciously and don't direct your energies properly. And I'm talking about doing it in moderation. If you were to be in that world to need to have the pornography to get stimulated, that energy is going somewhere. And this is where even like me talking about that would sound kind of woo-woo to people. But this is like something that actually really, if you think about it, it's like energy is going to go somewhere. You're just looking at something, you're directing your energy to something. You know what I mean? Preoccupied, yeah, somebody can be very preoccupied watching porn. You know what I mean? It's the same thing like watching sport.
But where are you going with this level of conversation? Because if you are saying that you've got an objection with people wasting time on sport, wasting time masturbation,
no sports. I watch sports. I watch UFC.
Right. Well, it isn't that, more of a waste of energy, because at the end of the day, the chances are you burn more calories during a football game than you would in, one bout of masturbation. When you're jumping up and down and you're shouting, you're all excited, and your central nervous system is on edge because, the other team's just scored a goal and now you're anxious inside and, your heart's pounding. Isn't that bad? It may be a good form of exercise. Some people, they'll probably die with a heart attack there. What I'm saying here is, Peter, the stage I'm at in my life, I've looked at so many things and I've concluded that I ain't ever going to change the world. What I have decided to do, that if I believe in something, then I'm going to make that my truth. And it's only ever going to be my truth. And when I'm doing my videos, I'm telling people this is how I've lived my life. And I'm living a life now. I've been retired 14 years. I spend, the time on the beach or in the gym playing my guitar. I do whatever I want to do every single facet of the day. How I did it, I can tell you how I did it. I did it this, da, 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 da. And that's what I do. I depict my life. And if people think that my life is a life worth living and that they may want to live a life in a similar way, then they may want to start learning some of the things that I've learned, or, some of the things that I've done, the places I've traveled, and this, that, and the other. There's no point whatsoever in wasting energy about anybody else. And this, after 6 very, very hard, grueling years on YouTube, being a prolific creator, over 3,000 videos, I've concluded something now, and it's each to their own, mate, at the end of the day, because we can't force anybody to do anything. What I've done now is I've established myself to a degree, and I've got a site, and I say, look, I know something about psychoanalysis. I know something about meditation. I know something about taking psychedelics. I know something about self-help. And so you can see some of my videos. You can make your own opinion of whether you think that's true, what I'm saying. If you think it's true, and if you think I can help you, I'm here. That's where it ends.
Hey, listen, Well, I don't want you to think this video is going to be where I'm challenging anything you're saying. It's basically, you know, and I love what you just said, because at the end of the day, it only matters what you think. You know what I mean? What
Yeah.
each individual person thinks. And you said something that was key. You're sharing your experience, and whoever might be of interest to that can, you know, get something out of it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is what I agree with. This is what I'm trying to tell you. So it don't matter what you think or what I think. At the end of the day, look at the word subscription. People are going to subscribe, which is a script. You know what I mean? They're going to be under a script that you're putting, because you're the author of your channel. I'm the author of my channel, and people will subscribe if they resonate with you or if they resonate with somebody else. This is why I said it doesn't matter what you think or I think. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, they're just different points of views. You may see something that I don't. Like if you're standing on one side and there's a dent on a car, I can't see it unless I go into your point of view. You know what I mean? This is why I have an open mind toward everything. You know, people, when I talk to people, I have an open mind. This is why I want you to know. I don't want you to get, because I have a way of expressing myself sometimes, but I don't want you to think that I'm like here debating or challenging. It's not about that.
I don't think that at all. I think that. How old are you now, Peter?
38.
38. Okay. And so if I look back when I was 38, I had an enormous amount of energy. I peaked about 48, believe it or not. That's when I was squatting on a full 90 degree, 160 kilos, exactly double to my weight. I was training karate, running, and cycling and swimming and everything. You know, a massive amount of energy. I have never suffered from energy. And when I was with a girl, I'd be at it all night. I'm telling you, when there's a girl in my bed, there ain't no sleeping going on. You know, it's not this 10-minute fuck and then we go to sleep and I'll see you in the morning. There ain't going to be no morning, because it's all going to fucking filter through, you know, an endless fucking circle. Yeah. And so,
well, you know, and I get what you're saying, because my wife is 26. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like I have more energy now than when I was her age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've been with my wife for 10 years. So I kind of resonate with what you're saying. And you know what? I remember I started this conversation with reflections and everything.
Yeah.
I do see a lot of your traits in me. And this is why I feel like, you know, we have a discussion this way. You know what I mean? Because you also said you were a leader. You know what I mean? That you've always had that leadership mentality. I've been even in the jobs I've had, I've always been a manager since I was like 18, all the way up until now. You know what I mean? So it's like, I get what you're saying. You know what I mean? And that's why I say we have a lot of distinct traits, and I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you're saying. And the reason why, you know, we are here together having this conversation is because of our similarities, because we can see eye to eye, because otherwise then there'd be no point in being here. If I was a Muslim and you were a Christian, there'd be no point in us being here, because we'd never get any resolve. We'd never discover anything. But because we're open-minded, I'm perfectly open-minded to listen to everything you say. And I won't say that's wrong or this is right, because there's no wrong, there's no right. Whatever you want to project onto it, that's your prerogative. And, you know, the way you do your videos, that's your prerogative. And you're going to draw the variety of subscriber that subscribes to your way, and, you know, me, mine, and that's it at the end of the day. And so no right and no wrong. You know, there's so many ways to skin a cat. And looking at the human race now, it is so immensely complicated. And not only is it complicated, it is absolutely, completely and utterly a paradox. And so there is no truth to be found anywhere in this universe. And so I've now become kind of like settled in my old age, and I've made certain realizations about this. And goodness me, it took me a long time. Peter, you know, 55 years old, been on YouTube for 6 years. It's took me a long time. But I was listening to a conversation with let me just have a look at. So these people are important. Mark Passio was one of the person.
Was that last one?
Sorry,
was that your last video?
This video that I was listening to, it's a podcast with Mark Passio, James Corbett, and it's the Vinnie Eastwood show. Are you familiar with the Vinnie Eastwood show?
No.
Oh, okay. So basically, this guy's a podcaster. Now, they're all podcasters and they've all been doing the stuff. Are you familiar with Mark Passio?
No.
Okay, Mark Passio, I would recommend that you look into his work. He's a fellow American. He's very, very thorough about all this stuff that we've been speaking to. He's a mind of information. He's a no-nonsense bloke, and he's been doing this for umpteen years. These people have been doing it, probably for about 10 or 20 years, 10 years absolute minimum. And they've been podcasting, for that long. I've just been fucking around on YouTube for 6 years. And so, in real terms, I'm still a rookie, but I'm starting to get abreast of what it is that I'm actually saying, because I broach so many subjects, Peter. I was broaching every single subject under the sun, basically. I'd walk down the street and I'd have a subject. I'd come back into my house and I'd have another subject. I'd watch a video, I'd have another subject. And people would go, well, basically, what are you trying to do here? I don't know. I'm just talking. I'm just passing my opinion. But you see, what I've done now is, out of all the things that I've learned, is I thought, well, what's the purpose? There's no purpose in me passing my opinion, because everybody's got one, just like arseholes. Can I do something with my opinion, with my experience? And so what I'm doing now is, this is why I set this site up. Yes, I can. I can help people grow. I can help them grow mentally. I can help them grow spiritually. And so all of my experience now has been channeled into that desire. It's to allow people the opportunity to become more aware. I can't force them to do it. I can't shake it out of them like I tried to in the past. And I can't, force people to support my channel and, to watch my videos. I just make my videos. I do what I do. I take pleasure in doing it. I take pleasure in meeting the people. That has to be where it ends, because if you've got an ulterior motive outside of it, you can't control that. And all you do is waste your energy, you see.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's got to be from a place of authenticity at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That was the whole theme of this conversation between these three people. They said you have to be authentic, because if you're not, you ain't going nowhere. And so it goes to show that in this world, then authenticity is what counts. In the other world, in the mainstream world, it's false as fuck what counts. And the falser you are, the fucking better. The more Kardashian-like you are, then you're going to get on like a house on fire there. And that's a distinct difference between them and us. Here, it's authentic. And so it doesn't matter what we do as long as we're authentic, I think.
Yeah. And you want to just get your point across. You want to share your experience. You want to share your message. And but it's all authenticity, man. I completely agree. And that's why I like this conversation we were having, because at the end of the day, I feel like it's been authentic. You know what I mean? One thing I've been very vigilant is seeing that if you said anything I said, if you were saying, no, that's wrong, that never came out of either one of our mouths, which is why I feel like we've both been open-minded toward what we've been listening to, yet standing firm in what we know. You know what I mean? And this is what I appreciate about you. Right? This is why you remember the herd-like mentality that people have. They'll hear something and they just want to follow along. And that, just talking to somebody, you could tell if they have a herd-like mentality the same way. You know what I mean? But you've been authentic. I feel like I've been authentic, and this has been very, I feel like, and educational. Even you tell somebody, oh, we're teaching you something. People, their ego gets all bent out of shit because you tell them they're teaching you something. But at the end of the day, if you're watching a video, you know what I mean? You have to sit there like a student. You know what I mean? So you're watching it for a reason. And education would come down to, at least, like, we talk about something, but there's always going to be a solution and something, a value that somebody could take away from the video. You know what I mean? That's the point of having a niche or a genre such as education on it. You know what I mean? Because people would look at it and be like, why do you have it? Yeah, you're not a teacher. And you know what I mean? Like leave the ego out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It's so preposterous. You see, when I tune into your channel, I'm tuning into your channel because I want to learn, because I want to learn about you, because I want to learn about the subjects you're speaking about, because I want to learn about different facets and delivery and this, that, and the other. And I want to see how you're learning. You see, it's all going on. We're all students and we're all pupils. And, the ridiculous thing is that, like you say, when, I before I started this channel, I was saying, well, I'm going to be teaching you this, and I'm going to be endeavoring to, awaken you to that. Oh, you can't teach me. The only reason I watch your videos is because, I know all the stuff you know. And I'm like, well, why do you keep wanting to listen to an echo then? Why don't you go and learn from somebody else? Is it because you're too big to learn from somebody else? Evidently. You see, if you just want to hang around here and you want to listen to me and go, I know that, I know this, I know that. And if you want to keep kidding yourself, because there's no one on the planet we know everything that everybody says. And so this is what some people are like. And so I say to them in the best possible way, I think it's for you time to go. Grasshopper, you've taken the stone from my hand. Be on your way now and go teaching other people.
That's right. Yeah, and some people will watch it just with the purpose of like trying to find something to like debate on or talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what I've also noticed about certain people, even watching different channels and everything. Instead of just looking at it and trying to, have an open mind to the way they're seeing things. Again, this is why people say, "Oh, I see your point of view." Again, you might be in a position where you see something and I don't see it. You know what I mean? And everything comes down to a maturing level because, again, the more you're in this, the more you mature, the more you expand your mind. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I can't teach my child algebra. You know what I mean? You got to wait till he matures. So it goes by levels. And that's why I say, like, there's certain things that we can look at as it's okay. Like, we talked about the whole pornography thing. But if any average Joe who says, oh, they'll watch this and then they'll go jack off like 20 times a day just because we said it was okay. You know what I mean? Not knowing that we meant something else behind what we were talking about. You know what I mean?
But I'm pretty sure that if they were going to be jacking off 20 times a day, having watched us, they were already jacking off 20 times a day. It just made them maybe feel a little less guilty because somebody was in agreement with it. You see, I think the vast majority of time, all we're looking for in this life is some sort of verification of our own sanity.
You know what? You said exactly the truth. It don't matter what the fuck you do, but if you have a guilt behind it because of the belief system, that's the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guilt that you have, you are like, with the guilt is what's fucking you up, because with the guilt is where you're creating that negativity in your life because of that emotion you feel. So yeah, it's just doing it and knowing that you're doing something that it doesn't matter what you do, you're empowered, so you can do whatever the hell you want. You can eat whatever you want because you know how to breathe properly. You know how to clean your body out properly. You know how to fix yourself. The way you use a car, you do a tune-up. You know what I mean? You do a tune-up on your body once in a while. You know what I mean? So yeah, I totally agree. That's true empowerment.
And when I'm doing my videos, I mean, I'm absolutely being authentic, and I even mock myself and I ridicule myself and I act stupid just to show that people, come on, it doesn't matter. I'm 35 years old and I can still act like a kid. And when my daughter was growing up, when I was a bit younger, it was difficult to distinguish who was the child because I was loving doing stupid stuff, probably even more than she was, because there's this suppressed facet of us all, which has been crushed out of us by, this strict regime of governance and, grow up and stop dreaming and stop being a fantasist and, imagination's a bad thing. Imagining about sex, it's the most terrible thing. Using your imagination. You see, this is the trickery of the Catholic Church and religions. Don't imagine, and most definitely don't imagine sex.
That's right.
You sinner.
Yeah. And you notice how kids normally in their natural state, they're always happy. They want to scream. They make noise. They jump. They knock things over. You know what I mean? But we're always, stop. Don't move. Be quiet. Sit still. You know what I mean? But their natural way of being is just to move around and just like use those energies they have. But we want to sit them still all the time. And that's because we are suppressed ourselves. You know what I mean? And that's how we pass that on to the kids. You know what I mean? We actually, they grow up knowing that they got to be suppressed somehow. You know what I mean? So yeah, we're molding them a certain way unless we're not mindful of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so just going back then to something that you said, some time ago, it was in relation to language and words. And this was happiness. And you said something like reading this, or when you read the explanation of the word happiness as an illustration, so-and-so found happiness. She found happiness in this and that. Well, you see, when you look at what the human being is, fundamentally, absolutely fundamentally, we are happiness. And so what
Yeah,
they are inferring when they say they found happiness in, their work, or they found happiness in their sport, it's directing you outside of yourself again and saying to you that happiness is out there. Go and get it. Go and spend to acquire it.
that's exactly the point I was trying to make, because you notice how somebody could tell you, hey man, don't worry, just be happy. Be happy, because it's
Be,
what you are. You
just
are
be,
happiness. You
just,
find yourself. That's
yeah,
why I mentioned that before, because it's like, but somebody reading that, see, this is my point. Somebody reading that would read that and look at it as that happiness being outside of themselves. You get what I'm saying? That's why people, they look and they say, oh, I found my partner and I'm so happy now. You know what I mean? Because they refer to that happiness as outside of themselves. You know what I mean? I found my happiness through her or through him, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, there's nothing really outside of yourself. It's just you. You find yourself and you'll be in total bliss. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that.
And so the thing is that, we hear from the likes of Buddhists and this, that, and the other. We don't need to acquire knowledge about anything, and this is really, really important, because this is what you see. All of my videos, Peter, I speak about first-hand experience. I'm not repeating what other people have said, unless I want to say that I'm speaking Jungian, or I'm speaking Freudian, or I'm speaking about a certain variety of psychology. And when people are versed in that, then they'll know what school I'm speaking from. Because obviously there's many varieties of schools of psychology, but if we get rid of all of our programs and then we come back to the self is pure bliss. The self doesn't have all of this shit going round and round and round. And the beautiful thing about what I've done in this past 6 years is a daily meditation. Daily meditation was probably the best thing I've ever done in my life, short of fathering my daughter. Because what that has done to me, it's shown me the nature of the universe. It's shown me the true nature of man and its peace. And it's complete and utter bliss. Everything else pertaining to the matrix is burdensome. Even loving somebody is a burden, because it pulls on the heart and it causes so much pain and suffering and stress in many areas. But to be completely emancipated, to be like the Buddha under a tree, that is the beautiful and fundamental state. I wouldn't say it's the natural state of the human being, because the natural state of the human being is a paradoxical one. That's why we're born onto a planet and we think we've got a separatism going on. But we don't actually have a separatism going on in the universe, because we're all one, because it's the consciousness is the only thing that is actually in existence here. But that's why I try to steer people in the right direction of meditation, because if people can actually find that space, if they can come upon it just a flicker, then that will be enough to keep them trying, because they'll know that that's the most beautiful thing that they've ever experienced. And albeit it's nothing, it's emptiness. In this emptiness is everything. And so I'm sorry to go on, this monologue, but let me just go on for another 30 seconds. The reason why I'm saying it, because it's really, really important. Because through my meditation, I have discerned the nature of most of the things that they speak about in quantum physics. I absolutely understand entanglement. I absolutely understand things like black holes, whereby there is absolutely nothing. Because when you look into the spiritual realm, then the spiritual realm will tell you that the natural universe is darkness. It's void. It's exactly the same, maybe, as the inside of a black hole. And everything comes out of this darkness and the void. You see, our unconscious is dark, and it's vacuous, and it's seemingly empty but full. Our everyday consciousness is the light. And this is the thing, we are all dark and we're light. We can't escape it because we're a mirror reflection of the universe. And so when you get into deep and profound psychology and spiritualism, then you keep coming upon the same thing over and over and over and over again, that the world is just an illusion. The human being is an illusion. It's all born out of imagination. And so if that's the case, then if we are made in God's image, then surely we can do godlike things. God imagined us into being. So let's imagine how we want our life to be. And then when you realize your godliness and your power, then you just start creating, don't you?
Yeah. And you know what? I want to start off with you hit the nail on the head when you said that when you talk and you say things, you're not just repeating what somebody else said. You're actually living the experience. And this is what I actually have expressed in my previous videos. And this is all where it comes down to authenticity. Because if you're just repeating what somebody else says, you're just repeating it without, you just know something, but you're not coming from the heart space, so you can't come back from a place of unconditional love. Which is why when I'll make videos, I try to literally speak it from the heart, because I'm living the experience of what I'm, and I try to speak my part on what I know. Most people I watch, they'll speak things they don't know, what they're saying. They're just regurgitating things, you know what I mean? And you could tell when it's authentic and when it's not, you know what I mean? This is why the experience is important, because you can understand other people's position. This is why I say, like, I was there at one point. I can say, yeah, this is important because, I went through this, and this is why I'll talk about my experience. Maybe it'll resonate with somebody who has gone through a similar experience as I have, you know what I mean? And, when we talk about just coming from a place of unconditional love, yeah, this is basically just us being created in God's image. You know what I mean? Like, we could just, we guide people, and we have things working for us. We have the attraction of the energies working for us. It's a law of reciprocity. I give something out, it's not where I'm expecting something back. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna come back, because it's just attracted that way. I mean, law of attraction, for example, we talk about how you can think things. Your imagination is the most important thing. Only thing is, like, when you think it, you already manifest it. Thing is, there's a timeline here, and since everything's so dense, everything comes to you a lot slower. The only thing that changes the path of that manifestation is the fact that our thoughts, our emotions in between there is what can alter everything out, and that's fear. And that's where we're kept, in stress and fear. So, I mean, I love what you said about the just not repeating, because again, that's what we've been talking about the whole time. It's just being authentic. And I feel like the most important thing delivering a message is being authentic. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and so going through our lives, you see, I see a mirror reflection in you. Let's say, I don't know, maybe, a couple of years back, in that you express how you are feeling on a day-to-day basis. And this is why you have to make your videos in the instant, because that's when the energy is there. And that's how I've always made my videos. None of my videos have ever been contrived. If I don't get the direct inspiration to make a video now, it won't be made. I'm not going to be lying in bed thinking about, this and that, or writing stuff down. Never done it. Can't do it. I don't want to do it. I don't do this, you see, because I want to do it. I do it because I'm compelled to do it, because it's my destiny, because it seems that something is working through me to do it. And that's what I can see in you. That's what I can see in anybody who's authentic. They can't do nothing else except be themselves. And that's the wonderful thing about it. And so it doesn't matter what you speak about, because you're always going to find a market for people that are going to be resonating with you at whatever level you're at. And as you progress and you evolve, like we all do, then we start talking about different things that seem more real to us at that particular time. And so where I'm at now is by encouraging, people such as yourself, members, to have these real conversations, because where else can you get it? Where else can you really delve deep? Where else can you can say absolutely anything to me, and I'll never be offended about anything. And you can bluster and you can profane me, anything. It wouldn't mean anything to me emotionally, because I'm not attached to myself, you see, Peter. I'm not attached to this. This is just a matrixial illusion, and I'm just playing the game. And every single day, I know I'm playing the game. And people say to me, "Well, if you don't believe this and you don't believe this, why do you get angry?" I said, "I don't get angry. What I do is I become an archetype of somebody that's a little bit angry because that moves people. I want to elicit a certain energy from you. You see, that's why I do it. I'm like a piano teacher. I want you to press on this particular note to see what that feels like. Ding, 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 ding. Can you feel that? Okay, now press that one. Dong, 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 dong. Can you feel the difference? It's not just a hearing thing; it's a feeling thing. Can you feel the difference? Okay,
Yeah.
now let's do some stuff in between. Ding, 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 ding. Well, how do you feel? Oh, I feel like this. All right. You're getting it now. Dong, 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 dong. How do you feel? Oh, I feel like this. Exactly. It's a feeling. This thing's a feeling, people. So just feel.
And you notice how after you make a video, you have a certain feeling afterwards of like satisfaction.
Yeah.
After you make a video, you let the energy out. But
Yeah.
also, I don't know if you've noticed this, but and this is a tool. This body is a tool. You know what I mean? So you're here. Information is gathered in your DNA. Everything's gathered in your vessel. This is your computer.
Yeah, it's all there.
You're
it's
here.
all there.
You want to gain as much information as possible. You know what I mean? And the beautiful part about it is that, like, you know how you talk about you get into the energies, you got to make the video. You know what I mean? So you have the energies flowing freely. You feel it. You have a good flow when you're talking. You notice when you go back and watch the video, you're like, you'll see that you said things. You're like, oh my God, that was awesome. You know, and you don't realize you said it until after you watch the video.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? Even the tool of love can be misused. I heard you were talking about, love. Love can definitely be misused. You know what I mean? Because you see, true love, you see the same they say, if you truly love something, you let it go, and if it's meant to be, it'll come back to you. See, instead, people use the love and create the attachment, and it turns into obsession. You know what I mean? And this is why people, you know what I mean? I've seen guys kill their girlfriends. You know what I mean? Oh, I loved her, and he didn't want her to be with nobody else. You know what I mean? So it's like you think you love, but it's not really love. It's just an obsession, or created that into an obsession because the love was utilized the wrong way, maybe. But everything's a tool. But everything can be misused the same way this computer here could be misused as well.
Yeah.
And we're working the internet right now. Like, you know how people could get caught in the net, in the web? Like, we're working it, having an interaction. You know what I mean? So it's good.
Yeah, and the thing is about what we're doing now is not getting drawn into it. I mean, I'll put my hand up. When I first went down the YouTube rabbit hole, then I was believing stuff I don't believe now, because I know that belief is that it's a fantasy of knowledge.
Right.
That's all belief is. But when they started talking about Subaru and all these aliens, this, that, and the other, then it's kind of like, oh, holy fuck, the world is really fucked up. And then you're looking into it, and by the time you go down there, you see there's a stage, there's a level of opportunity for development. Some people can go down there, they can hang around there, and they can come out with the sanity. Some people, they'll go down there and they'll never come out again. And it's kind of like where people who are absolutely believing in flat earth, and they get very angry and aggressive and dismissive about anybody with another opinion. You got to say, how long have you been down this YouTube rabbit hole? You should know better than that by now. There is no truth down there. All you're doing is believing in a truth, and so therefore then you're creating your own fantasy. If you want to create your own fantasy, that's fine, but don't project it onto the world, because as you can see, it doesn't work. And that's the whole thing about it. And so what Paul and I, have you watched many or any of Paul and I in our videos and conversations?
Yeah, I've watched the last 3 posts that you put up, actually.
Oh, okay. This is another Paul.
I just don't remember. I don't remember whose name.
Okay. I'm talking about my best friend, Paul, who have made hundreds of videos. Mostly they're on the original Awake and Brave. We was always walking in the woods together and this, that, and the other. Well, he's been off the scene.
Not Patrick, right?
No, that's Patrick here. Paul, I've not seen Paul in a couple of years because he's back in the UK. But we made hundreds of videos together, and the conversations we have are really, really down there. And we, for years, were overly concerned with them or the people, the sheeple, how other people feel. And it took us a long time before we could step outside of that, and we'd make the realization that the them that we're talking about, it is absolutely everybody. It's absolutely every other opinion on the planet. We can't compete with that. Why do we say, well, they won't believe this and they'll contest that and they've got something to say about that? We have to sever ourselves from the notion of them. And you just have to realize that you can't do anything with them because there's too many of them. You know, they're legion. All we have to do is work on ourselves. What do you know? Where is your heart? What is it that you would stand by? You know, see, I'm avoiding belief. This is the sort of thing. And that's at the level we're at now. We're not concerned with anybody else other than a stimulation, an exchange, a pleasurable activity of conversing with like-minded people as we seek something. But I'm not trying to impress nothing on you. You're not trying to impress anything on me. And that's it, you see, because we've made this distinction. There's no point to that. Why would we ever want to do it? Why would we? You see, I used to want the world to be like I wanted it to be. I used to want most people to be like me, have my values and have my cultural preferences, and you know, have a similar level of intellect and this, that, and the other. Instead of meeting people that you just don't gel with, and that their intellect is some sort of crazy variety of intellect that you've never come upon before. How does that work? You know, some sort of schizoid, and you know, it's like, wow. And so at the end of the day, then you can go out into the world and you can experience all this stuff, but just take it as you see it. Just take it as it comes. Take it as an experience. Don't try and change it. Don't try and change anything. You see, the whole thing about what they're doing, the New World Order and all these wars and the contriving this and they're doing that, and it's a prison planet, sure, it is. But you see, it's the way the human being likes it. The day the human being doesn't like it anymore, Peter, it's going to do something about it. Why? Because the human being is the most powerful thing in the universe, because we are pure consciousness. And that's the thing, you see, because we don't know the dreams and the fantasies of other people. We don't know how they like to be bullied and manipulated and subservient and touching their forelock to their masters. Many, many people need masters. They love masters. You try and take their masters away from them, woe be tied to you, you know.
That's the whole comfort zone thing, man. That's because they're just comfortable in that lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why, yeah, there's the art of just letting people be, places, and things. Just let it be. If you try to change it and you know there's no hope for that, you're just draining your energy to that extent. And besides, there's certain people who go through stages also. I heard you say stages, and I always think of stages like as a stage. We're actors in a stage because you're playing a certain action every time you're at a certain
exactly
stage or level. You know, you even look at the word dementia. People who are sick, you got dementia. You see the word dimensions there. They're just in another dimension. You know what I mean? We judge them as being like this ease, that it's just, you know what I mean? We can't judge it. We don't even understand it. You know what I mean?
And when people are so-called schizoid, all that's happened is that they have had a consciousness shift. They're in another dimension. And that's when you see the medical fraternity, they only know one way to deal with these variety of people, and that's to label them as broken machines, something outside of the norms. But spiritual people, you see, they'll look at them completely differently. And, you know, in lots of countries, they'll be considered to be shamans, and they'll be to be trained as shamans because they spend at least a good portion of their mental life in another dimension, in another conscious field, and this potentially could be very, very valuable. The only thing is some people, they can't grasp it, they can't deal with it because they're too afraid by it. But you see, I've spoken to people who have had these so-called psychotic episodes, and they've all told me that they've had beautiful, beautiful feelings of wonderful connection and being God himself. You know, it's not just like I'm God, powerful over you. No, we're all God, but these
Right.
people realize it. And it's like when you take certain substances, you go into that variety of consciousness and you realize, yes, I am the creator and it feels wonderful. Can I stay like this forever? But no, you can't, because you'd be manic. You'd be like, wow, wow. When I'm on DMT, man, the whole thing's wow, wow. And I had one occasion whereby I felt such an enormous amount of love that it dropped me to my knees, and I almost was crying out, begging for it to be stopped. Please stop loving me that much, because I'm not used to it and I can't stand it. And then for the next 2 hours, I was running around, jumping with joy, marveling at absolutely everything. There's no bad, there's nothing that's negative on this planet. It's all just perfect. It's all a part of what it is. It's an experience.
Yeah. And when they're, you believe that when so they're, let's say, schizoid and whatnot, I've also heard that at that point, you see, they give them drugs to kind of suppress them, calm them down, you know what I mean? But there's different ways to calm them down. You don't think that maybe with psychedelics, because they're technically high, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just can't come back down to this physicality.
Yeah.
So how do you bring them down to this physicality? Maybe there's certain sound therapies, there's certain things that can happen, but instead they give them medication to just make them worse and keep them crazy, you know what I mean? Keep them high, but in a suppressed state, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like an imbalance, you know?
Yes.
You don't think so?
Well, I mean, I don't know enough about it to really pass an opinion or general consensus, but the few people I've spoken about, when they take the medication, the medication, it gives the doctors required results because it stops them going into these euphoric states. But these euphoric states are the most wonderful and beautiful things that happen to them, but they go on too long and you can't function in this matrix, you see. And
that's my point. So if they're in a euphoric state, they're vibrating high, right? They're in a higher frequency and vibration. They just can't come back down. They can't land the plane, you know what I mean? Like, so the question is, how can they land the plane? You know what I mean? Can they land in a way where it wouldn't have to require that kind of medication? You know what I mean? But there's also, that's the occult secret that they don't want nobody to know, because you see, those people could share things with us that we can never fathom because they're already there, and there's people who can't even reach that state. But the whole point is just to get them back down. There's got to be a way where it doesn't involve that kind of medication, right? It could maybe involve certain herbs, or maybe even other kind of psychoactive drugs that would probably bring them down, rather than, you know, giving them drugs that would further distort them more, but keep them in an unbalanced state. That's what I was asking. But I believe that maybe there's got to be a way. It's just that they don't want. It's like when people are sick, what's the first thing they do? They give them medication when there's natural ways to always heal your body. You know what I mean? But
the whole premise of medication is to get you back functioning, back to work. That's what they mean. Get you back to work. And so when people are functional depressives, or they've got some sort of psychosis which is deemed to be functional, they may be suffering from a great deal of anxiety, or they're depressed to the degree whereby they can still get out of bed in the morning and get on the train and go to work. That's ideal because they don't cause any problems. They're not going to be, marching on the government and all this sort of thing. They're going to be little cogs in the big machinery, and that's what this whole society thinks about. It's about just producing this level of automated machine, and I don't think per se whether there's anything really nefarious about it being that way, because if you look, if the government is going to be catering for all the marvelous and wonderful facets of what it is to be a human being, then it would completely change the way things are run. And it absolutely wouldn't be a profit system anymore. It would be a benevolent system. It would be a system which everybody is considered equal, like an egalitarian system, a bit like a communist system, only that there wouldn't be, the proverbial hierarchical system overseeing it. if we're going to be catering for the human being and experiencing and allowing the human mind to grow in certain realms, well, this whole system's going to fall apart. And if the system falls apart on the premise of a few, then that's not a good thing, because the whole thing about egalitarianism, it's basically keeping the motion of the thing going for the betterment of the majority, and the minority, they're the ones that are going to fall away. They're the casualties of war, you see, because if you cater for absolutely everybody, then what you end up doing, you end up dragging on everybody, which is a detriment to the momentum of the main body, don't you? And so you have to consider the natural laws of nature. And what's happening now, there's a natural law of nature. And there's a drive, it's a collective drive. And the steam behind the drive is human complacency and comfort. Because what the machine has done, it's created a level of comfort never before known to man. And we've experienced it now. And we get very, very disgruntled when some of those comforts start to be compromised. And so we are in such a malleable position now, because if they take our car away, if they take our driver's license away, if they take our homes away, if they take certain foods away, oh, what? I can't have Coca-Cola anymore. Where's my pizza? What about my wieners and my hot dogs? Goodness me, there'd be a civil riot, because these things have become an institution. They've become second nature, and they've grown up with them, and they don't want that taken away. And so when you've got people like that, it's not like we're being evilly manipulated. We're just being manipulated. We're being anesthetized. We're being beguiled, but I think for the benefit mostly of ourselves. Because when you unleash the human being to his own devices, you'll see that mostly is a monster. And this has been tested too many times for us to need to go back there again.
Well, look at what happened. What's raging on the internet mostly now? Like they supposedly they shut off Instagram and Facebook, and now everybody started flipping out. And I was like, what's going on? I didn't even notice until I woke up this morning. It's like a lot of videos, like internet, Facebook and Instagram went out. You know what I mean? And to me, it's like they just test to see how people react to things. You know what I mean? And that's why I made a video with the concept of the whole rat race. You know what I mean? Like, see what do scientists do? They constantly experiment on lab rats. You know what I mean? And we are classified like we they call it, we're in a rat race. You know what I mean? So it's like they're just experimenting. That's what they do, and they see how the reaction is. And look, you could clearly see what the reaction was to that.
Yeah, but when you look at it, you see, I mean, I often defend the so-called illuminated ones and the powers that be, because it is a natural hierarchical system of the universe. And if we just look at what we do to sheep and cow and pigs and dogs and cats, we domesticate all these creatures. And the ones that we can't domesticate, we consider a threat and we kill them. And so this is why the vast majority of them have been extinct. And if we don't kill them, then we put them in a cage. We don't like anything that's potentially going to be a threat to us. And so we don't want to live in harmony with creatures. I mean, in America, granted, you've still got bears and mountain cats. In the UK, you've got nothing. You've got no wolves, no bears left, nothing. There's too many people to be compromised. And so they all had to go. America, because it's got vastly more land, then a lot more of it can be allocated to these wild creatures. But it's only because they don't want that land for houses, because as soon as they want a house or a school built next to these grizzly bears, there's a compromise that has to be made. And it's kind of like, we value the human being over the bear, so bye bear. But if you look at the way in which we're manipulated and we're moved, you see, what I say about the illuminated ones, they would have every single figure on the planet. They will be able to juggle with the quantum computers, all these projections for 500 years into the future. They know this information, Peter. I don't think there's a shadow of a doubt that they don't know. They have not seen 1,000 forecasts of how the humanity is going to go based on every single resource on the planet we've got. How could it be otherwise? The computers are so brilliant these days, and this is why they're gathering data. They have to gather the data. They have to monitor us. They have to know what we're consuming down to the last sugar grain. Why? Because resources is going to be a fucking issue when you've got 15 billion people on the planet in a less than 100 years' time. Can you imagine? They're panicking. Of course they are. That's why they're doing what they're doing. G-grid, people running around, oh, they're doing this and oh, they're doing that. Oh, chemtrails. Look, whatever they're doing, I'm pretty sure, at the end of the day, they're doing it for our survival. Because if they didn't want us alive, then they could do that very, very quickly. They've got the power. They could eliminate us within an instant. They want us alive for whatever reason.
Well, that's what they could hit a reset button, I believe, if they want. I just think that, if they wanted to get rid of us, they could, but they want us in a weakened state instead, because in a weakened state, we're in a lower vibration. In a lower vibration, who the hell, no human being can really create or feel good in a weakened, lower vibrational state. I mean, you have everything against you. You have, the work system, cost of living going up. People aren't getting paid enough money. And then you got kids who go to school and they got to pay a substantial student loans. They can't find jobs, and if they do, they got to pay student loans back. Cost of being up so high, it doesn't match to, So there's a lot of things against you. A lot of things that keep people in a lower frequency and a lower vibration, because they're thinking left brain all the time, survival state. They're always figuring out how can they get out of this mess. And then there's a lot of temptations. A lot of the luxury that people want. That you see it. On TV, social media. There's a lot of stuff that we get tempted and that's just how I see it.
And so to round this one up, then we've got about 10 minutes left before we get to the 2-hour mark. What would you conclude from the conversation that we've had? I know we've touched on a lot of subjects, but if we're pressed, and I'm pressing myself now because I don't know, I'm posing this question to myself and it's a challenge. How would we conclude, what we're doing? Do we look at it from a world perspective? Do we project onto the world our wisdom and our philosophy, how we want it to be? Or do we have a greater level of acceptance and just go, well, it is what it is? There's 7.5 billion of us, and we're all conscious to whatever degree, and consciousness is going to go wherever it goes. Where do we go? I mean, you see, this is how I am. I'm dichotomous about it. I can look at it from whatever knowledge I've gained, but I know that my knowledge is only a smidgen of what knowledge there's out there. And if I knew all the knowledge that was out there, then of course I think I'm pretty sure I'll be still back in the paradox. I won't be able to make a decision because the variables are too numerous, and the whole thing is just experience in itself in any case. And when you look deeper into it, devoid of the insecurity of the human being, you see, it's the insecurity of the human being that makes many people think the way they do. Because I know when you are no longer secure, you think very, very differently. And because I'm pretty sure, I can't say I know, but I've had lots of experiences that tell me that my consciousness is vast. And it goes on in so many different realms. There's billions of realms out there, seemingly. And so this body is just a little, flick of a time span, if at all time even exists. And so I'm just looking at it and I'm marveling at it and I go, wow, it's a joy. How am I feeling? Well, if there's a choice between feeling bad and feeling good, I'm going to feel good about it.
No. Well, I actually have a couple minutes, so I'm going to make it very short. But, my main message here, for example, is when I this is what happens when I watch certain videos. People are concerned, how many subscribers they have, how many followers they have, how many likes they have, you know what I mean? See, I'm making my videos and I'm trying to stay as authentic as possible. I don't care how many people watch my videos, as long as I got a good amount of people, but it's all the intention you have behind the video that you make. Well, I'm talking about me, that I make. If I'm about to make a video, my intention is to, little by little, each video I make, all right, have a feeling of, like, you see, for example, when I watch a video, I always pay attention to how I feel after I watch the video. Do I feel empowered? Do I feel scared? Do I feel, you know, like I learned something, you know what I mean? Like, or do I feel like, you know, like I watched some conspiracy, you know how when you watch a conspiracy video, sometimes you feel like with a feeling of fear, but sometimes you'll watch it and there's really no solution at the end of the video. All you did was just scare me with information, but gave me no solution.
Yeah.
So I am all about just staying as authentic as possible. You know what I mean? Being the change that I want to see and just not getting lost. You know what I mean? Just staying real and just, you know what I mean? Making better connections with different types of people. You see, I'm grateful I made a connection with you. And it's interesting the type of, you know, interactions we've had. We've had, you know, kind of like fluctuations, but I feel like
always,
they've been
always will be.
experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're learning experiences, you know what I mean? You're always going to find somebody that has a strong character, you know what I mean? You're always going to find, you know, and it happens. It's just knowing how to manage that, you know what I mean? Not getting lost in the ego, wanting to now, you know, outshine the other one. It's not about that, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like I learned something from you right now. So this is the intention I had, is coming in this video and learning something from you, but also giving, my intention was to that we were going to send out a powerful message, because these are waves. We're sending a ripple out from here, you know what I mean? And how we affect everybody else around us, you know what I mean? You have a larger following than I do. I just started my channel, but I'm not like really concerned with how many people watching, you know what I mean? I ain't come here because some people do it for clout. Oh, I'm going to be on his video because I'm going to get more followers. No, man, it's just, you know, we built here, you know what I mean? And even though, again, it may have sounded a certain way, it was just, I feel like it was two men talking, and this is about as real as it gets, you know what I mean? So this is what's up.
Yeah, this is exactly what's up. And so, you know, what am I doing it for? I do it because I like it. And if other people like it, yeah, then great. And so at my time in my life now, I do things that I like doing. I do things that give me the pleasant vibration that I'm looking for. And then I know that I have got this world and earth experience pretty well mastered, because I can be the avoidance of pain and suffering, and I can immerse myself in pleasure and bliss. And so I'm thinking, well, fuck me then. It seems you got it made then, mate. And so I'll just keep continuing with this formula. And because there's nothing I say is going to be causing anyone any real pain and anguish, I do intend to cause them a little bit of pain and anguish by having them look at themselves. I give people the opportunity to look at themselves, look at yourself, because unless you look at yourself, you will not grow. And because you're on my channel,
nothing wrong with a little tough love.
Yeah, and because you're on my channel, that's my prerogative. If you don't have to listen to me, but if you're going to listen to me, I'm going to tell you, look at yourself. Stop looking at me. Stop judging me. Stop going, oh, Aaron's this and Aaron's that. Look at yourself. That's all I'm doing. I'm holding up a mirror. Have you seen this? You see? And
you know, the harder experience would be if they took a psychedelic and they had to face themselves. Then they will really see what's scary. You know what I mean? So it's better to do it like that than having to take a psychedelic and you just be forced in that realm to really face yourself and all the darkness that you have, you know?
Exactly. And so this is why I've been invested in psychology for so long. And I appeal to people to know themselves, because when they know themselves, they can go into all these psychedelics and they'll come out pretty well unscathed. They'll have marvelous experiences, but they won't be traumatized. The trauma comes from the lack of self-knowledge. And so this is why I'm always encouraging people to get to know themselves. And that's what my channel's about. And so thank you very much for your time, Peter. It's been another great conversation, and I look forward to the next one. And if you get the time, just put a comment down below, put in your channel down. And if you feel that you want to engage with other people in Zoom conversations, on your own channel, then mention that as well. Use this channel as your advertisement. I'm perfectly happy about that. Because it's just, spreading the awareness. And, I want people to better themselves, and I want people to get along with whatever they're doing. And this is why I always want to announce people's channels and whatever they do, like whether they're art, whether they're musicians, anything. Promote it all on here. I'm perfectly happy with that.
Hey, Aaron, it's a pleasure. All right. I'm going to go pick up my son. If you would send me the video through my email. I mean, I would love to post it as well, because I didn't post any of our conversations, but I would definitely love to post them. I think they're of value to people. So, you know, I appreciate your time. This is honestly, it's been a pleasure. Very inspiring and educational for me as well. So, you know, I'm looking forward to sometime in the near future. You know what I mean? We'll do it again, because there's a lot to talk about.
There is.
Even 2 hours is not enough time.
No,
the topics are deep.
And that's right. And what I'll start doing in the not too distant future is doing a threesome, so we can get another person into the conversation, which will make it more interesting. So I'm going to send you these videos. They're going to be via Sprend. And so you open them up, you put them into your documents or whatever, and then you load them onto your channel.
You got it. All right, man.
Mate.
Pleasure.
Nice one. Cheers, Peter. Ciao, man.
Later, man.